biggest thing that they can do to create a psychologically safe workplace is a couple of things. Number one, actually really monitor their response to bad news. So when someone presents them with bad news, whether it be a safety hazard or, production issue, or sort of a hiccup that's happened, that first response to actually that bad news, like, thank you for telling me, I appreciate it, versus here's a bit of paperwork to fill out, here's another one, what's that going to look like on our targets, another, red mark. That initial response will shape whether or not it's okay to talk about bad stuff and stuff that's not okay. The other thing organisations to think about is to really extending that relationship to bad news is actually looking at what do they monitor and what do they reward. I was working with a team recently and I said to the leader, can you tell me a little bit about your team? And the first thing they came out and said, we're 700 hours LTI free. And that's the first thing, because that's a badge of honour. But that also sends a message to the rest of the workforce. You know what, that's a badge of honour. I've heard the supervisor brag about this. What if I'm the person who has to break that 700-day run? What pressure does that put on me? Naturally, we're not wired to say, bring up bad news or speak up. And plus the leader's really rewarding that 700 hours. I might just let it go. I might just not report that. So, really looking at what things are rewarded in the business. Does the business reward the good news stories, or is there actually rewards for bad news stories too? And by a reward, I don't mean saying, this is all great, but, learning from it, saying, okay, thanks for that. Let's actually look at how we can prevent this from happening next time. Probably the other key thing. So number one is looking at response to bad news. Number two is actually creating room for voices. So this is really around inviting people's feedback, inviting their thoughts so that you can actually enable the workforce. So instead of actually, we say a leader being a know-it-all, getting the leading to be a learn-it-all. So I always say to leaders, do you spend twice as much time asking versus telling? Because that's the ratio you want. So anytime a leader has an interaction, a little good self-monitoring is actually to spend twice as much time asking for feedback versus telling them what to do. And another little strategy is actually implementing what we call a dissenter. So this can be an organisational strategy. When having, your pre-starts or team meetings, actually having a place where someone is assigned as a dissenter. So NASA does this, right? And the dissenter is literally like a job card, and the person in that meeting, their job is actually to ask the hard questions. Ask them to reconsider, look at the other possibilities of thinking. And again, that starts to build this kind of culture of actually seeking input and listening to voices, so that they really are listening, what we call loudly, instead of actually just telling. So there's 5 things we say to leaders that you can do to make sure that you're creating a psychologically safe workplace. Number 1 is, have you admitted a mistake to your peers, the powers that be above? Have you actually asked for help? That shows that you're actually vulnerable and you're open to listening and learning. Have someone actually come and asked you for help? That shows that you're approachable, you're open, you're a good listener. Have you actually voiced a concern, particularly up the tree? Because it shows that you're actually safe to speak up and you feel like they'll value your information and your feedback. And finally, have you actually asked for feedback? So have you been open enough to ask for feedback about, is there anything different I can do here? Have you tried this before? Have you got a better way? All those things so that you're actually open to listening and learning. Yeah, so look, it's right from the top down. Organisationally, it's looking at have we got the systems and processes to actually support that reporting culture? And so that's where you're looking at what are the rewards for bad news in the business? How is bad news actually responded to? Is it only good news we reward with a bonus, or is it actually bad news as well? So looking at that system space from an organisation, it's then the leaders actually looking at what sort of environment are you creating? Are you creating a safe space for people to speak up? Because a little bit of a trap is that leaders are more likely to have high levels of psychological safety the higher they are up the tree. So their perception that it's safe to speak up will be very different to the person on the floor. So their role in actually creating that space. And then secondly, it's really around everyone on that team actually making that safe environment within that team to speak up. So when someone actually does share an idea or thought on the crew, instead of actually, giving them a hard time, actually supporting them in that or asking questions about it versus just dismissing their point of view. So it's every single person's responsibility in the business, right from the organisational structure down to the front line.